Comments and suggestions from the community?
I guess that's me.
Okay, please state your
Because
name and
nobody
address
else
for the
here.
record.
Ron Howard, 1902 Shasta Drive. I was here a couple months ago, saying what I figure was part of the problem was spending. And I had brought up the heart monitors, $80,000. And I was told they were obsolete. But as I look back, on January 7th of 16, they paid $80,000 for X-Series heart monitors. On October 12th of 2017, they paid another $80,000 for heart monitors, trading in the first set of heart monitors and getting $7,000 credit, apparently. At least that's what it showed. So I don't understand why you'd have $160,000 worth of heart monitors. Why you'd need a double. I guess
Okay,
Where'd you get your
Brandon ain't here,
information
so
from?
we don't know. Pardon?
Where'd you get your information from?
It's on the Hudson site, expenses, accounts payable.
Okay.
One of them is from January 7th of 16. And they're both as old series, X-Series heart monitors. Anyway, and other than that, I talked to Brandon
Yeah.
and about it being obsolete, and I went on Firehouse Forum, it's called, where they discuss nationwide on heart monitors. And 90% of the people say it just depends on what you're used to, not on price or anything else. I went in and asked if they were any better than, and the only reply I could get is whatever you're used to. There's fire departments out there. One of them says the salespeople for these companies are going to push the highest price, best one they think is best, but and it might be and it might not be. But anyway, that was one of my concerns. And another one, I think this is just a government observation, or observation of the way the government works. Buying a new range and refrigerator for down here a couple weeks ago, paying $59 for delivery and $25 to take the old refrigerator out. I got delivery from St. Paul for a range a year ago, and they come in and put it in. Took the old one, and I got a refrigerator this past summer, the same thing. They delivered it, no charge. Is this just a government or a city object to pay $59 for delivery and $25 to haul the old one away? Most people haul them away when you buy a new one.
Last July, I bought something from Home Depot, and I got charged.
okay.
Did you really?
We're not supposed to discuss things.
Oh, we're not?
At this point, we would have to talk about this at future agenda items.
I apologize. I'm just trying to
Okay.
answer
That's
your
okay.
No, I know, it's frustrating because
Does
it
that
would
mean
be,
I can't ask a question?
Oh, no,
You-
yes.
you can ask the question, we just can't,
You won't give me the answer.
can't give you an answer now, but we can put it on the agenda to talk about it. It's because of open meeting laws, we have to make sure that if we have a discussion of things among our committee, that
Okay.
it's been properly noticed.
Okay.
We can also follow up outside the
Yes.
meeting as well.
Can we discuss with each other and with each other openly so he can hear the discussion, and that could probably answer his question?
I guess we could put it under item 9.
Yeah, we can put it under item
Items for
9.
discussion only.
Yeah.
You just want me to stay, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to be here, you got,
Well, I have two questions. How many people are there on a 24-hour shift? And how many bedrooms do you have here? That's my only two questions. I think. Oh yeah, another thing I was looking, I seen It really don't have, it's, I guess I kind of wonder why workman's comp for the ambulance crew is half what it is for the whole rest of the city. I mean, you're talking police department,
I can answer that.
road crew, fire department.
Every type of job in the state has been given a classification,
Right, I understand that.
and the classification on EMS workers is much lower than maintenance and many other departments. And also, the state, in its infinite wisdom, decided the city government was one flat rate, but they did give certain exclusions. So work comp is set by the rates and what the jobs are. So that's why there's a difference.
You're not supposed to answer.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You didn't like the answer.
No, I just thought, it's $1,000 for the water department, $1,300 for the sewer. City pays $8,000, but EMS is $4,000. It don't make no sense. You got a full police department, you got a road crew, a park crew, city hall. It's only double what EMS is. How many are on EMS? Basically, what they're saying is EMS cost half the money of what the city is. If it costs $1 million to run the city, EMS is costing $500,000.
Well, thanks.
Because it's on payroll, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
You're not
we'll,
supposed to answer.
we'll discuss this later. Thank you for bringing these up, though. Comments and suggestions from EMS staff?
I was emailed several specific questions that I think, with the indulgence of the committee, I'll just kind of summarize. But
Okay.
the big thing is effective January 1st, we have a new deployment plan or deployment model that we're following, and we have literally no guidelines or instruction on how to move forward with that. So, and that's not my specific observation. These are questions that were emailed to me. So
Okay.
there was a plan that went into effect January 1. We received an email January 2nd telling us that what was retroactively to happen the day before, and we still don't have any guidance from the chief or management. So I know that that's not necessarily, that's an operational question that the ad hoc committee probably doesn't get too much into, but if through other work group discussions or however you could see that
Okay,
through.
all right, we'll take a look at that. Anything else?
That was the reoccurring theme, was just operations.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, discussion and possible action on an ad hoc committee minutes of 12/27/17.
Move to approve. Second.
All right, discussion, there is an error in the date of the last, so at the December 27th meeting, we approved the minutes of the November 29th meeting.
Yes.
So, would you like to change the motion to approve with the date change?
Yes. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Discussion and possible action on survey results and interviews of employees.
I met with 11 employees. It was good. I learned a lot, eye-opening. And they all echo the same thing. Best thing they love about Hudson is obviously the people in the community.
Mm-hmm.
They are all, when I speak, it's a reflection of what was said to me. So they are gun shy of the board.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the right to be.
The board being the
Not our board, the,
council, the commission, the
yeah, city council.
Okay.
The top three things that need to be addressed, the Ward Avenue project is probably number one. I think it would boost a lot of morale. And that's important. It's gonna get done anyways.
The primary reason for that, better living conditions, better living.
Living conditions, pride, you know.
Yeah.
They feel like that city wants to keep morale, invest in them.
Yeah, okay, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
they would probably take that
I
as
mean, it's
a sign of
Sign of investment.
investment and plans to maintain the service, okay? So that, number one was Ward Avenue project?
yeah. The operations supervisor, right now it's a BLS, which I've learned is a basic life support. Is that, am I saying that right, Ben, Josh? Yeah. That'd be moved to an ALS, advanced life support, and those are for reasons that I want one of these guys to explain. Ben, explain an ALS versus a BLS and the importance of the difference, which when it comes to transfers and stuff, please.
Well, I think, so the difference, so EMT versus paramedic, or AEMT, which is, I think, what he's talking about. So, obviously, we're a paramedic level service, and so it's important that we have a paramedic at least on every truck. So again, I wasn't involved in the meeting, so I'll just simply answer Paul's question. The difference between the two is obviously the level of care, which I think we all understand. I guess what I would guess the question to be, or what that theme to be, is about, we have a leadership position that can't fit that role of paramedic. So again, I'm speculating here.
Yeah,
I
Ben
wasn't
was
there.
not part of it, no.
But my speculation would be, it's a challenge that I often face in another organization, is if you have an open shift, leadership often is the ones that end up coming in and helping out. So Brandon being a good example of that, of often filling lots of shifts when they're open. So if a shift were to come open, you have a leadership position that maybe can't fill that role. If you're a paramedic, you can fill the role of EMT or paramedic. If you're an EMT, you can't fill the role of paramedic. So I would guess that's a little bit
Yeah,
about
Ben
kind
was
of
there.
what
I
that might be.
I needed someone to tell the difference between ALS and BLS. And the third one would be better communication with the management, Brandon and Josh, amongst each other, and then the staff. A monthly meeting would be important, and they would have to follow through with this, and open line of communication. Emails be answered, text messages get answered, phone calls get answered, and then face-to-face conversations. The fourth one is it's just a small little thing that they can just handle on their own, is, a suggestion box. Some people will write down stuff, anonymously on a postcard and put it in there and let it get addressed. Some people didn't come to the meetings for various reasons, but some people are non-confrontational. They don't want to rock the boat, you could say. But I think a suggestion box where they could write something down or type it down and put it in there could address some of their issues. Or compliments. There could be compliments in there too about the way things are going. Joe's concern with the structure of the new, what do you guys call it, the new plan?
It's our operational plan.
Operational
Staffing
plan.
model.
Yeah, there's hiccups in it. There's pros and cons to any plan. I think that if Brandon and Josh do a better job of addressing a staff meeting and getting this going immediately, a lot of these things could be fixed. And the model can change. Common sense needs to
Right.
be the number one topic when it comes to the staffing model. So give them a chance to fix it. I think Brandon's got a fantastic staff. A lot of them I never knew, met them for the first time, really impressed. They are a different breed of human. They save lives. That's what they want to do. They don't want to be in here. Those three don't want to sit in here. I tell you that. They don't. Joe doesn't want to be up here. Josh is, he's uncomfortable. He doesn't want to be in here. They want to be working. And, I'm going to leave it at that for right now.
Okay. So, have you finished interviewing all the employees that were interested, or
I
do you
think
still have
the-
some more interviews to go?
No, I think the ones that wanted to talk came and talked to me.
Okay.
And I did re-invite everyone to, if you have more to say, feel free to have, come talk to me. And if more comes up, I'll bring it to the attention of the committee here.
Okay.
And I could do that without being on the agenda, I'm assuming, correct? Say next month I have 3 other pieces of tidbit, I don't have to be on the agenda, I don't think.
We will have work groups on the agenda, so
Okay,
yours is considered a work group.
all right. So Joe and I will just send out another email saying that it's still open for interviews and stuff.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question that kind of attaches onto one of Paul's themes? So with communication, and I think there's lots of dynamics to effective communication, staff meetings certainly could be one of those tools. And this is maybe the ability to squash maybe a rumor. And so I guess the question I would ask is, what I've heard through the grapevine is that we were told we weren't allowed to have monthly meetings anymore. I don't know if Joanne knows anything about that, or if somebody
I was told the same thing.
Yeah, so we were told that the city had advised us we could no longer have monthly staff meetings.
No.
You know anything?
It'd be news to me.
Have you, other staff heard that?
Yeah.
Because it would be really helpful if we had them.
Okay, so we can
That's not
put that rumor to rest?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
Yeah, Brandon should be able to call a staff meeting at any time that he feels it's important to have one.
Yeah, no one, I didn't, I wouldn't hear that, I don't work with these guys, but no one in any of the interviews brought that up. And, I'm glad that got brought out in the open.
I heard that rumor 4 months ago, and look how close I am, but it sounds like a revised reemergence of an old rumor. But it's one of these things that goes around, the worst possible thing we can do is cut off communications. So we don't want, really, really bad.
Good.
But what do we need to do?
I think Ben just killed it right there, I think it's good.
Figure one way or the other, at least just get an answer.
Yeah. No,
Okay, so
and
someone needs to say that.
that's part of,
Way to do that is to schedule a meeting. So, Josh, you'll communicate that with Brandon?
Writing it down right now.
thank you. Right. I'm assuming you're taking good notes for Brandon and that you'll be bringing all this back to him.
Correct.
Yes. All right.
He's DVRing it on.
Well, the YouTube video will be up quickly because Nate gets these processed pretty quickly and up, so.
Those in the township where it's not shown.
Oh, and I forgot to welcome John Tremble to our committee. So the
Thank
mayor
you.
appointed him Monday night and the council approved, so welcome.
Thank you.
So the next one is discussion and, okay, so any more comments about the survey results or the interviews or questions, concerns?
They were happy about getting the room construction was done downstairs. So now there's 5 very small rooms down there.
Really?
4, I'm sorry,
4 sleeping
4 very small rooms downstairs.
I mean, sleeping rooms?
Yes, yeah.
The one thing I guess I wanted to ask or bring, the theme also, and I'm sure Paul can echo this because he was at the meetings too, but the biggest concern from staff is, okay, so we expressed our concerns, now what? So do you have an answer for the staff? What you're going to do with these comments and concerns and what's happening with all these comments? Paul brought them forward and told us what they were, now what?
Well, what I'm assuming is that we take what we got today and we start putting those things into action. And then if we don't see an improvement on a lot of these things, like the meetings aren't happening, the communication isn't happening, refresh me, Joe, what else did we bring up?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, let's,
Move to Ward Avenue.
yeah,
Okay.
so then what happens from there? Then it goes to the city council and based on our recommendation?
All right. We have to be careful because I was told that this committee, we have to stay within the scope of the work, which is financial. And morale is something that Brandon should be addressing. So we can bring these concerns to him, but we aren't supposed to be handling them directly. But as things come up, we should be tracking them and following up on them.
Joyce?
Yes.
You answered that question very well this morning at the commission meeting. I sat in on the commission meeting along with John and Jim and Joyce, and someone raised that issue, and you dodged it very nicely, I thought. But if push comes to shove, I think we have to say that the morale of St. Croix EMS has a direct and pressing bearing
Yes.
on the financials of the organization.
I agree.
A big problem is staffing, and one of the reasons we have a staffing problem is because a lot of people left. Why? Because they felt crappy, with good reason. And so I think this is our business.
I'm not sure I agree with that, or that we're limited to financial. Who says, where is that limitation? It's not in what we designed as the purpose of this group. We do not limit ourselves to financial. I mean, it's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the downside. But operationally,
I got a call from Catherine, and then a follow-up email, which is a confidential attorney-client communication, and she said that morale is not part of the scope of our group, and that this is what Brandon should be, it's Brandon's job to address morale issues.
it's our job to report them, though.
Yes. But, and she didn't,
We can't necessarily take actions on all these things, but I think we can certainly make some recommendations about, and ask that somebody specifically take a look at this if it's not within our, we actually can't do anything.
yes, it's really,
So all we can
yes.
do is
Make
research,
recommendations.
listen, and report. But we can ask different organizations, different people to do things. And if they say, no, I'm not going to do that, and say, okay, well, we're going to talk about this because we have the EMS Commission, we have the Public Safety Committee, and the City Council. And
If
all
we're
those people can say, you need to do this.
If we're strictly financial, it can be fixed real quickly. It's pick up St. Paul's business plan, and that's a good start. Let's not miss out on any more transfers.
Yeah,
But that's a staffing issue. Transfers.
Yeah, staffing issues is a transfer. I think if we take the operations position, turn it into an ALS, that would help out a lot of that right there. I know that they've been working harder at picking up transfers
Right.
since this has been brought to light, but we shouldn't be missing out on any of them.
Agreed.
It's revenue.
yes. Yeah, okay, so, the committee will study methods to increase revenue, so, including the billing service, the collection service, Medicaid and Medicare reimbursements, interfacility transfers, and fundraising. Methods to reduce cost, best practices of other EMS services and professional associations, information gathered from employees, community, and municipal partners, other topics related to its purpose as determined by the committee. That is what was submitted for the committee. Now, but the city attorney does have the ability to interpret things for us, and I have to follow the guidelines that she's laid out for us. So,
No, I'm not going to necessarily agree with that. That's her opinion about how things should be done. And if we wanted to have it stated differently, then we need, if that limits us in our ability to make things happen, then we need to go back through the council and get that addressed.
yes, okay. So, I will,
I still think, a lot of these things come down to things that we don't have control of.
Right.
But you say, this is the direction we need to go, that's, this is really a positive thing. And if it's a staffing issue, and say, okay, who addresses the staffing issue?
yeah,
It's Brandon, the EMS Commission, and the council are the ones that have to address that. So we have the hearing to push those things and get them on agendas and ask for action. We can ask for action, and I think we need to not be
That might be something for you to discuss with Devin, and me to discuss with Devin, but doing it separately, so that
Who's Devin?
Devin Woolley, the city administrator, and then he would take it to Catherine.
If I could, Joyce, I understand how the ad hoc committee was kind of created and that it had to have some focus. And if there's a way to change the thinking or the wording around the focus, an opinion I might offer is it should be more vague, which probably will drive Catherine nuts, but more about long-term reliability, sustainability, and viability. Those are the three things that we need to figure out. How will we be long-term viable, sustainable, and reliable? And so lots of components come into that. Certainly financial is a huge component of it, but there's also underlying pieces that are equally as important as the financial side. You could have all the money in the bank, and if you have no staff to run the trucks, it doesn't make a difference.
Or if your response times are poor.
And if your response times are poor.
Exactly right.
Okay. Those are good points. Do we need to go back to?
I see two options. One is, I mean, our charge, to my mind, we can interpret the charge that Catherine gave you and address all the issues that have come up. I think they all have a direct impact on financials. And
Okay.
just do it. Speaking for myself, I would prefer to do that rather than go back and seek a revised charge.
Okay. All right, well, and then we have to stay within the open meeting laws.
I know.
And make sure that things are on the agenda.
Right.
So, all right.
That's why you're saying that you and I can't meet with Devin at the same time, because then we would be,
That was another thing that she brought up, was that the open meeting laws, even though we don't have a quorum, if a couple of us are talking separately, that the open meeting laws are interpreted to, on the side of openness, as much openness as possible. So we really should be limiting
Does that
things.
apply to me? I'm a civilian. I mean, does that apply to me?
Yes, because you've been appointed by the mayor to be on this committee.
Fine.
So you and I can't have a meeting on the side, outside of this, right?
That is what she's telling us, yes. And
but they're not, two people would not, is not a
it's
majority
not a majority or quorum.
quorum, so it's,
And
meet, it
and
just
now that
has
we
to be
have
noticed.
Now that we have 5, yes, yes,
So
you
it's
can meet and you
not
can
more than
notice.
3?
Pardon?
So it's 3 of us can't meet?
Well, 3 would form a quorum,
Right.
and also 3 can block something.
Right.
But, you know, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't play one on TV, so I
Right,
don't
but
want to.
Joe, Ben, Josh, you can talk to them wherever you want because
Yes,
We can't
they are not members of the committee. They are advisors to the committee.
right, got it.
And so we can talk to any of the advisors that we want, and you can have as many advisors with you.
I understand.
So we need to follow open meeting laws. I know, lots of red tape.
yeah, sometimes it gets in the way of having open discussions.
Gets in the way of solving problems too.
It makes this whole
Slows.
process extremely slow.
Yeah.
In response to your
Yes.
complaint.
All right, discussion and possible action on work groups. So, all right, so now that we have John here and got more people, what work group, are there work groups that we need to form? And if we have 2 members of the committee on a work group, then we would have to have meeting notices. But 1 member of the committee can work on things on their own.
As Paul just did. And you
Yes.
did an admirable job. I think that's a great
Yes.
model for what we're doing here. I don't see another issue that is ready for following that model tonight.
Okay,
So. Down the road, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna meet with more people. I'm sure they'll come forward.
I think that's great.
So we'll see.
okay. Yeah,
Do you see a need for a facilities work group
Yes.
as you talk
That
about
was-
Ward?
Yes. And,
That one might be bigger
I
than,
think that one we should form tonight. That's a, and that's actually the number one issue, as well as some, there is movement that may make that useful.
And when I put it at number one, I did that. It's, the staff did all bring that up. But I know that if that project was put into play, a lot of the minor issues would go away.
yes.
the EMS I sat on the board of, once we fixed facilities, a lot of other stuff disappeared. When they were running, we essentially had an ambulance that was in the industrial park and the house was next to the hospital. It didn't work very well. Once we got the housing and the ambulance next to each other, so we eventually moved the housing to the industrial park, a lot of issues disappeared.
Okay, so the situation with Ward Avenue right now is that there was a site plan that was developed by the fire department, and it will be presented to the city council at the next meeting, which is the 22nd. So at that meeting, we will find out just how much space is available, whether we can keep the building that was planned to be remodeled for EMS. That will be part of the site plan. So they'll tell us yes or no.
I have a question. Ward Avenue was given to the city.
No, the city purchased it.
City purchased it, okay. They turned it into the EMS garage, correct?
Not, I don't think in the purchase agreement, that was a thought.
That was
a
a thought?
possibility. So
Yes.
when we purchased it, there was nothing said about who was going to be there. I mean, everybody wanted to be there.
Got it.
Nothing was specifically said. It's been after that we started
Yeah.
developing the idea that.
Was there
it's a good
plans
place
already
for
been
EMS.
set to, and I'm asking, I'm not one of these smart Alex that's gonna just know the answer. Was there plans in place to put the EMS up there already, before the fire department got involved?
Yes,
Okay. Because I don't know, why did it stop?
because nothing formal was done. No money had been committed. The money is finally, there was money in the 2018 budget, but there's been no money to do anything and no formal commitment. It's been an idea.
Got it.
This would probably be a good deal.
Okay.
And there's been some initial work done, some estimates and that sort of thing. Just sort of ballpark things, but there's been no formal.
So it could be eventually a fire hall and the EMS station up there. Is that what you guys are looking to do?
We're looking, there's engineering work being done to determine what kind of room there is a room to have both a fire department, a new fire building,
Yeah.
as well as EMS in the western building. That's that's where we're at right now. And that work is just about complete. Once that gets done, then we'll know.
What
Yeah.
size is it up there?
I can't tell you.
Okay,
I do not remember.
You
okay.
know how many square feet are in that?
In the building?
Well, how many acres is the lot?
Oh, how many acres? What is it?
5 acres?
Is it 4 or
Well, that's pretty
6?
good
I
size.
think it's under 5 acres.
Is it? Well, it's pretty big.
Yeah.
So there's room.
But the idea, I think,
Yeah,
Jim, is to use the two existing buildings.
Because it would,
No.
Oh, no? Oh, okay.
No, the fire building, the thought would be, it would be a new fire building. Would not try to remodel.
so it's not gonna be a satellite, it's gonna
No.
replace this?
Yes.
Basically.
The study that was done, okay, so there was a study done on the fire department, and now this is a site plan. The study said that the department isn't large enough to have more than one site for the department.
Correct.
That would be inefficient. and there's not enough space there to,
So I understand, if the fire department goes up there, what's gonna happen with this building?
this building over here,
Yeah.
To be determined.
to be determined, yes.
We haven't even approved the,
Yeah, I got you.
yeah,
I
we're
got
still
you.
working on concepts. What, will it fit where? And are there any, or they think they've looked at all the downside issues and that's an adequate, that's a workable, very workable site. It's like the number 2 choice.
And are you guys looking to have those answers by summer,
Oh, no, that's, there's going to be a presentation on the 22nd, our next council meeting, with the update, and I don't know if it will be the final, but it's gonna, it should give us a pretty good idea.
so this could move
Can we
quickly.
fit, excuse me, can we fit both operations on that site?
Oh, good.
That's the question they're wanting answered.
And then from there it goes on to planning and,
Yeah, well, all right, so then, tomorrow we have a public safety committee meeting, and I've already put it on the agenda for tomorrow, that we discuss that contingent on the site plan information, can we go ahead and authorize an RFP for the design of the building, the remodeling, so.
RFP,
So, request for proposals.
got it.
And that would be the, initializing the whole business. So that, and the reason that I wanted it on the Public Safety Committee, even though we haven't gotten this presentation yet, is that we want to be able to get moving on this right after the presentation. And, it's always hurry up and wait, because you've got to wait for the next meeting. So we want to keep this moving.
So if we get a positive report on the 22nd, then we're already positioned. We've gone through the meetings that we have to go through. That's what we're hoping. And then we can prepare the RFP. We won't have to wait another month to go through the meetings. So that's,
It's in the right direction. And it's not a no, so, good.
No, and I think, yeah, I can't speak for the other council members, but I certainly see the need for this to move forward quickly. And I'm assuming that Jim is in
absolutely.
agreement.
Right.
Joyce and Jim, are the move of the fire department and EMS inextricably connected? In other words, suppose the site plan says, well, there are some issues with the fire move. Could we go ahead with moving EMS?
My understanding is that as long as this site plan shows that this building can stay where it is, then we should be able to go ahead independently and work on that building.
Up to the
while
city council, of course, but.
Yes, up to the city council,
Right.
while the fire department works on their building.
Good.
And what I would like to see is that the fire department building is designed so that it could be expanded, so that EMS could be added onto it at a later date.
Good.
Is that clear enough?
Yes. Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, so how do we want to proceed with work groups?
I'll continue with the staff.
Okay, so Paul, staffing.
When you guys should be watching this building project.
Yeah, I think I'd like to be on unless you really want to be there, I'd like to be on the one council member on that.
Okay.
Staffing for
Facilities. Facilities, okay. I think that's a good idea.
Is there anyone else who would like to?
Well, I think
You
we're
know that.
limited to one, aren't we?
Well, no,
No, you can have
no,
two.
you can have as many people on it as you want, as long as you notice the meetings.
Oh, okay.
Let's not put it in the paper and stuff. No,
That-
you still need to notice us, right?
No, we have to give public notice.
Right.
So it's just better off leaving one person on it.
Um,
How many days do they have to be in the paper on public notice?
It's gotta be 24, well, it's not published in the
don't send it
paper.
to the paper
No,
anymore,
it gets,
Posted in City Hall and emailed, yes.
things like that. And it's 24-hour notice.
They did it when they interviewed me.
Yeah, so, well, you got the notice when John came to visit, and so we had a public notice that, that had to be
Yeah, I understand.
put out so that everybody could, the public was invited, but of course, no one showed up except for the committee members. So, all right. Any other work groups that we're ready for?
I think there's a couple in the future, but we're not quite there yet.
In finance is definitely something that we need to be working on, but are we ready for that?
What if someone looked into Josh, Ben, Joe, like suggestions? I mean, you guys are the heartbeat of it. You guys know what's going on there.
As far as additional work groups?
For a work group for one of the other two committee members, like how to improve on transfers, or is that really that simple? We just need the staff.
Yeah, that's a staffing issue and goes
Okay.
back to the
How
staffing
about, you know, a lot of people, what's a nicely ran EMS group that it would be nice to look into to base Hudson's off of? Hudson used to be, from what I've learned, used to be the standard for many, many, many counties and municipalities and cities. And now it looks like we're the ones trying to reinvent ourselves, which I don't know how we got to this point. But do you guys know of any that we should be looking into?
My concern is, I'm not current on what the Wisconsin EMS 911 statute is, because how we do it in California and how they do it in Minnesota is very different than Wisconsin. And I think we need to know that so that we can understand how staffing has to work in order to comply with Wisconsin law. Because I think that's one of our issues.
About transfers.
Yeah. And it's one of the issues around, if you want to talk about consolidation with another service, you need to understand that as well. And I don't understand what the current Wisconsin law is. Because that, where I previously was, that was really the main cause for our operating losses, was compliance with Wisconsin law. And so, if you've probably never had a physician in your office yelling at you for a half hour about your ambulance that's in the parking lot, but they can't take your hospital patient to Regions. I've been there because the Wisconsin law is screwed up. You know, so I was waiting for a rig from North Branch to come.
Sorry.
Well, it's not your fault that I had to call for a Minnesota rig to show up at a Wisconsin hospital when I had one in my parking lot. So I think we need to, as a group, understand these limits the state has imposed upon us, which is not necessarily in the best for our residents and their care.
And he said the key word, they're waiting. And that's why I came on, to make sure that the people that live in this area don't have to wait for an ambulance. I had to call 911. I'm sure other people have had to call 911. He was there. Car accident. I didn't have to wait 20 minutes.
And I guess I don't know if John's looking for an official answer, but not, as far as I know, and Ben can chime in or Josh can chime in, I don't think anything has changed in that. We still are required to have minimum staffing in town for a 911 truck. If we have extra staffing, we then, and only then, can we start doing interfacility transfers, but nothing else has changed from the St. Croix Falls days or the LifeLink days or anything else. It's still, nothing's changed. Nothing's certainly gotten any better. The state legislature just passed something, or was in the process of passing, minimum or even less requirements for rural communities, but Hudson doesn't apply for that. As far as It was, we're a paramedic level service, so we're required to have a paramedic and an EMT, at least on our first out truck. Second out can be BLS if needed. Some agencies are looking at going to an EMT and a first responder or emergency medical responder, which is even less care just because they couldn't find staff, but that doesn't apply to our population. So I don't think anything has changed based on what you were familiar with, John, but.
I think maybe it'd just be helpful that we saw the statute or knew for sure.
It's not so much a statute that governs it, it's whatever you file with the state as your operational plan and how you're gonna run your service.
Okay.
So if we were to sit down and redo an operational plan, the state can go, I don't like it, you ain't doing it.
How long is this operational plan? I mean, how many pages?
It's huge.
It's huge, okay.
I can email it out.
It's a lot of work. I mean, Ben can verify, I'm sure he's done one for Wisconsin lately, but, it's a lot of work as far as trying to figure it out.
Well, could somebody,
But we cannot downgrade ourselves in any way going to a new operational plan. The level of service that we're at now is the level of service we have to provide.
would you or Brandon be able to go through and annotate the plan, hit the highlights so that we know what we need to be aware of?
We can, yeah.
Okay, because I think, does that sound like
Yeah, that'd be
a
helpful.
good place to start?
Yeah, because without that, I don't think we can answer a couple of the other questions.
Because we're bound by our operational plan that the state has now.
Yes.
So,
Or what John's saying, from a transfer standpoint, the state is very clear, what you can and can't do. And so the challenge, one of the challenges that goes on is interfacility transports generally will be better reimbursement than a 911 call. So a majority of transfers is really where you can stay more financially sustainable. In Wisconsin, you are not allowed to take interfacility transfers unless you still have a 911 ambulance in the community to provide 911 service. So some of the challenges could be if Hudson Hospital calls for 3 transfers at one time, Hudson today could, in theory, only take 1, because then that second truck has to stay back. And what could happen is a few things. They could call another service, so River Falls could end up taking that call, therefore taking that revenue. They could call somebody from Minnesota to take that call, take that revenue. Or worst case scenario, if there's not a second truck staffed, we have to say no to every transfer, which again, I think you guys are all aware of. That's really a big part of the challenges. Losing 200 transfers a year financially is what is, in my opinion, killing St. Croix EMS.
Yes.
Which kills it financially, which then kills it from a morale standpoint, kills it from an operational standpoint. So it's not just simply getting staffing. You essentially have to double your staff to be able to do it. So that costs money. You need to pay the money to be able to capture the transfers to get the money. And so it's one of the many dynamics, but it's important to understand it.
And the other thing too, I think it's worth pointing out, is sometimes we don't have the staffing, so we can't do the transfers. Other times we're fully staffed and we're in the middle of a transfer and the hospital has another one and simply won't wait.
Okay.
And it's a non-critical patient that's been in the emergency department 4 hours already, but they don't want to wait that extra half hour for us to come back from regions and do another one. Oftentimes they will. And the working relationship between us and the hospital has been great. But depending on the day, depending on the phone call, we're not waiting. And so that's lost revenue. That's not our fault. It's the inability for them to wait. Critical patients certainly need to get out the door, but that's not often the case.
Right, but missing a transfer because of, you already have a full staff on, that's acceptable. Missing a transfer because we're shorthanded is unacceptable. That's a problem that can be fixed.
Right. But missing a transfer when we are fully staffed sometimes seems like it's a strike against us when we're going through the numbers and going, look, we gave up 200 transfers. Well, maybe give up 200 transfers, but maybe only 150 of them were due to staffing, and there was a solid 50 that we still could have done. It was just impatience.
I would argue that the physician who yelled at me was right in that patient who got in the hospital, who most likely was transferred, taken there by us in the first place, if they need to get to that next level of care, what makes that person less needy for that 911 service than anyone else in the community? But right now, they're a second-class citizen under Wisconsin law. They are behind the 911. And so I did have that physician a couple times dial 911 instead and get that rig rolling to get him out of that hospital, because that was appropriate for that particular patient, because they couldn't fly him in this case.
But as a clinician, and I don't know if we're having a discussion or not, but as a clinician, I would disagree with that, John, because that person is coming from a hospital. When you're having a heart attack at home, you've got no medical care. I have to go there, provide it. This transfer is in an emergency department of a pretty skilled facility, at least where we work.
Well,
So-
they've determined that person they can't handle, they can't save.
Sure.
That's why
But there's a physician saying they can't handle it, and yet they want an ambulance, where we should be loyal to our community where they don't have any medical care. So I completely get what you're saying, but you're talking about a patient that's already in a hospital.
In an ER room.
Exactly.
Yeah, all right. So what can we do about staffing? Do we need to? I mean,
How many do you
all
say
we-
you need to hire, Josh? How many full-time?
100% full-time?
I don't have that answer.
To fill out the new staffing plan, the
Fill out-
2018 staffing plan.
To fill it, even if we do fill it, so we need 6 EMTs right now, we got applications for 4. So that still leaves us 2 short. If we had ideal staffing, we would have 5 shifts a month for a casual staff to pick up. That's with 5 full-time medics and the 6 appointed EMT positions. We would have 5 open shifts a month. The way it was explained to me earlier.
Yeah, one of the issues is that it takes time to build the staffing, and
Well,
This,
there's
yeah.
no application pool right now. I mean,
yeah,
tech colleges aren't running classes, and I mean, the only one I knew of is the one that CBTC just got done with, but those aren't exactly the people you want to be throwing on your trucks right away either, ones that are right out of school, but sometimes you don't have a choice, but
Moving along.
okay. So, any other work groups? So right now, we've got Paul continuing to look at staffing and Jim on facilities. We need a motion to approve those appointments? Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Let's trying to listen to all these last pieces. It sounds like there's perhaps space for a work group that's looking at this, at the staffing model, and including understanding the Wisconsin law and all these funny things that different situations that happen. We're not quite there yet. How do we? Our model isn't quite there yet. It won't be. It's designed for 5 years from now. Our model will be complete.
Right, but we've got a model for 2018, and we don't have the staff yet to complete that model. So we're still working on that.
Yeah,
I think part of the problem is also, though, it's not just that we're not getting applications, it's the people that have worked here in the past aren't fans of the staffing model, and I don't know where that came from. That was discussions outside of this committee, but if you're gonna look at the staffing model, look at the staffing model. I think you'll find that it might not be sustainable either. But it's already been approved, and not just by this committee, the city council's approved it, so I don't know what can be done, but
Right.
there's definite issues, and that's also a recurring theme that staff is talking about.
So are there
Still
some,
room to improve on that staffing model, correct? People can have opinions on it, right?
Well, everybody has an opinion on it, but
Right.
what we're being
That's not
told is
what
that
I
it's
said.
set.
That's not what I meant, I
Yeah.
apologize. People can give information to help improve that staffing model, correct?
What staff is being told is no, it's done. The city council, the mayor, whoever's in charge of the budget has already approved, this is what the staffing model is gonna be, and that's why there's no room for some of the ideas staff has had to try to improve that in-house.
That can't be true. Is that a true statement?
I don't know.
No, I'm not talking to you, Joe. I
Okay.
believe you.
it's been approved,
But
Jim,
if somebody has something they want to change on it, can they change it?
well,
Yes.
we can always make adjustments. You know, everything is subject to bringing it to the city council and making changes.
Right.
So if there are some strong suggestions, then they need to be brought up so that we can,
But brought up to this committee or where?
it's a good place to start.
I think it has to come through the chief.
Yes.
Well, let's get that, it's,
Chief and Josh.
Because they're the ones who have
Right,
to
he's
address the staffing.
The managers of the
But the-
operation.
I didn't mean to talk over you, Bill. The issue, though, is, and I would say that if Brandon was here and he'll watch this on tape, but it's been brought up to the chief, and the chief has said, this is it. So what's the point of bringing ideas up to leadership when we were told, this is what the council approved, this is what the budget is, there's no room for a change? And again, this isn't just me talking at the, these are the, and staff, maybe we have to wait till we get to agenda item number 9, but you'll hear that from the rest of the staff that are in the room and elsewhere.
Okay. Well, we need to let Brandon do his job. And this is the staffing model that was approved.
Yes, and that's
Yeah,
why you
it's-
can't.
And so,
It's-
but if there are problems with it,
what
then
Joe's
they
trying to
need to be
say
addressed.
is the staff talked to me. And it's, with those suggestions, is a step to help fix those problems with this, it's not fixing the staff, really. It's the communication between the management and the staff.
Okay,
And a lot of it is directly from the city council. From the fear of, the quote, being sold off. And that's where a lot of the morale issue is. But it can be fixed, it can be saved, as long as the management, Josh and Brandon, follow through and start these staff meetings, start listening to their staff. The two there in the room, there was 3, including Joe. Joe works with them. If their concerns are addressed, they're going to be fine. I really do believe that, as long as they're addressed. That you can't just take their information and say, I'll work on it without any action. Because you're just going to lose even more. They're not going to have any confidence in their leadership. But they got to get this staff meeting going, and they got to start listening to their staff.
okay. So you're recommending that, okay, so, well, you already recommended monthly meetings,
That has to start now.
starting now. Okay,
And the staff needs to have the confidence and courage to say what's on their mind, to speak freely, and to give Brandon a chance to do this. Because I didn't work for Brandon. I never have worked for Brandon. All I'm going by is what I learned in the last week with the interviews that Joe knows I did. And those are my recommendations, because right now we need stability. And the only way you're gonna get it is with communication with each other. There's no, I've worked with Ben, there's no better communicator than Ben. Ben would be a great person for Brandon to go to as a consultant, to say, hey, Ben, how do I handle this? And I'm not speaking for Ben by any means, but
all good leaders look to other people for
Yeah.
assistance. Nobody can do it on their own.
yeah, I hope Brandon and Josh take advantage of this incredible opportunity to fix a lot of these things that the staff have. And right, Joe?
Yes.
Okay, so monthly meetings is a good place to start.
Yes.
Okay. And we'll follow up on that then. So you want to put that on the agenda for next time? Progress on monthly meetings?
Get the suggestion box up too. You never know, it's gonna be helpful. It sounds so petty and
Simple.
dumb we're even saying it, but just do it, it works.
Okay. Josh is making a note of that. All right, number 7, discussion and possible action on consolidation of local EMS services. That was something that we brought up at the last meeting, but we weren't prepared to talk about it. Any suggestions or ideas?
No, I have not done much more. I've looked at this a little bit more. I did see yesterday that River Falls has a opening for a EMS director now. So it would appear that they're going to continue on the same model that they currently have. So, which was the recommendation from the consultant that I got out of that. So that's just information that they seem to be ready to move forward.
I read the consultant study of the River Falls operation. Their situation in many ways is similar to ours, and they face a lot of the same issues that we do. But what occurred to me, well, several things. One is the study that we commissioned a few years ago. That was one of the options that it suggested, but the potential dollar savings were very small. Mm-hmm. And I think, in my mind, the potential obstacles are huge. From the Hudson side, a large part of the uproar last summer was over maintaining local control.
Yes.
And if we're merging with another operation, we're giving up at least some local control. That's what merging means, or a cooperative arrangement means. And having I lived in River Falls, or outside of River Falls, for 20-some years, and my prediction is that the exact same issue is going to arise in River Falls. Now, that's just from my observation, and I'm interested in what you guys think about a merger. Is that something that would horrify you all? Is that something that you would welcome with open arms? Do you care one way or the other?
When you say merger, are you talking like River Falls, or are you talking like St. Croix County becomes one EMS?
I guess what I had heard people talking about was River Falls. I hadn't thought much about St. Croix County. That sounds like even fraught with even more difficulties, but...
It could be be... We would have to develop a plan. If we decided that was the way to go, we would have to develop a plan on what we were really looking for. Would we want to just... so the original study that was done on the Hudson, or the St. Croix EMS, was consolidating several of the local ones. I think 4 of them or something like that.
Yeah, so it was Hudson, Richmond, Baldwin, and River Falls.
River Falls. And so if we decided that that was something that we wanted to look into, and we'd have to develop a stepwise process for that. The obstacles are, you've got, you have different pay structures, you have different rate structures, you have different staffing models, and so if you're going to consolidate, you would have to have all of those consolidated down to one of each, and it's a huge barrier.
During the study, did anyone go and talk with the communities in Chisago County? Because they managed to figure that out.
Oh, they did?
How many are on the Lakes Board who are still government entities?
Yeah, the board is made up of community members from all over. Some are elected officials, some are community members, fire chiefs, police chiefs, but it is similar in the size, it's similar in the run volume. It was 3 smaller services that were at the time volunteer that kind of came together in 1997 and became one entity, and then formally in 2001 became a new entity. But somebody has to own it. So I think that's what you're getting at.
Yes.
So if Baldwin would have to buy into it as much as River Falls would have to buy into it, as much as Hudson would have to buy into it. But at some point, somebody has to be the owner. Somebody has to be responsible. And so you could recommend all day long that it's a great model, but without the buy-in from the other organizations, it could be difficult. But it is what's happening across the nation.
Because that's a professional full-time service model.
Yeah. And it is, I'll use the words of Lakeview when they were here. It's the economy of scale. It's taking your resources, taking your expenses, and utilizing them to be the most efficient model you can do. And so it is what's often happening in Chisago County, it's happening in Polk County, it's happening in counties all across the country. And so it really allows to take lots of redundancy. Each one has a medical director, each one has a director, each one is paying insurance, each one has equipment. You take all of that redundancy and you make a more efficient system. But there's challenges with it. So as you asked, how would staff feel? Not sure. I think, and I'll go out on a limb here, and anybody correct me if I'm wrong, I feel as though the initial discussion that started with Lakeview, people were generally positive about. I think the initial opportunity, and I won't speak for everybody, but generally speaking, there was somewhat of a positive vibe to it. It wasn't until it changed to the EMTs losing their job that everything changed. So the initial discussions that we were getting as staff was business as usual, nothing will change.
Right, the original
Become one
proposal
entity.
was that they would take over and
So,
run
so
things away.
Hudson Hospital that was taking.
Yes, and it was Hudson Hospital, not
Yes.
Lakeview EMS.
So I'll answer your question on my behalf. The opportunity for that at the time seemed appealing. What unfortunately changed, and I'm certainly not picking on Lakeview or other services, but it was once we realized that a majority, 2/3 of our staff would lose their job over it, that everything changed. So I think there's that piece that you have to say, while consolidation is certainly an option, it would have to be the right type of consolidation for the people, for the communities, and for even the partners, the hospitals and the neighboring services.
Because that's part of the efficiency of scale, is some jobs disappear.
Yeah.
But you would probably still have, and, you know, if you were talking the 4 communities, you'd still have 4 EMS stations. The question is, how many transfer trucks do you have? Is it 2? Is it 1? You know, what's the model, and how do you then make sure you have the good response times? How do you make sure that those things work? And, you know, Lakes has been doing it for 20 years, and they're still tweaking their model. Because when they came into Polk County, we were just doing 1 truck, and we added a 2nd truck, and,
We learn from their mistakes.
you know, yep.
So is there a consensus among the group that this is worth continuing to look at, or?
I
Decided
think that may be I think we should leave it on the agenda. It's probably a question we don't get to till March. We
Okay,
hear about facilities, and we hear about how last year ended and some other things.
all right, so
But I think
maybe
it's well worth the discussion.
put on the March meeting agenda?
That'd be a big task. That'd be a big task in trying to get that done.
Well, just to start the
So
discussions.
bring it back up for discussion in 2 months. Is that,
Yeah.
does that sound like a good idea?
Just put it on the agenda. We don't
Yeah,
have to talk.
we don't have, yeah, all right. So, discussion of River Falls assessment, number 8. Any comments on that? Any nuggets that we can use to improve our services?
He said he didn't have time to read it earlier. Didn't you say that?
Right,
Yeah.
about halfway through it, and have not completed it.
Table it till next week or 2 weeks.
Let's continue it on the next agenda then. So we said that the River Falls assessment was going to be the first one that we were going to be discussing. So keep reading through that, and then if you've finished that and you want to start looking at the St. Paul study, that was the second one on our list. Okay, number 9, EMS items for discussion only. So here's where we can answer some of the questions that were asked. Okay, we've covered the Ward Avenue project. We've talked about the number of bedrooms. Okay, so how many people are on a 24-hour shift? So you have 4 people working at a time.
Correct.
in general,
In general, yeah. It depends on,
the time in the
it
day,
varies every day.
right,
Some might be on a 24, some might be on a 36, some might just be on a 12.
okay.
But daily,
But at any particular time, well, you probably have 4 people working.
correct.
Okay.
It's a tough question to answer, because every employee really gets to decide what they're signing up for, even the
Yes.
full-timers. They decide if they want to work 3 12-hour shifts to make up their hours, or a 24 and a 12 to make up their hours. The EMTs have the same option, the secondary medics have the same option. The schedule is set, you could sign up for a 3-hour block. If it's open and you're available, you can do that, so, it's a tricky question to answer, how many are on, but in theory, all 4 could be on 24-hour shifts. In theory, all of them could be on 12-hour shifts or 8-hour shifts, so.
Okay. Is your question answered?
Sort of.
So are you asking, was the question posed as how many people work 24 hours straight, or how many people are
How
on
many
staff?
are scheduled for 24-hour shift?
It depends on what that person signs up for. I know some people prefer to work straight 24 hours. Some prefer to do their, on the old schedule, some prefer just to do their straight 36 and get out of here.
I think what he's asking is, in a 24-hour period, how many people are on duty? Is that-
No.
Okay, you're asking how many people are working a 24-hour shift?
24-hour
Oh,
shift.
because you're stuck on the bedroom thing, right?
The biggest reason I'm looking at it is I seen in I think the last meeting it was in December about somebody, not enough bedrooms. If there ain't people working 24-hour shift, I'm sorry, but I've worked jobs that are 12 hours a day.
But
I don't get a bedroom.
Right, but you gotta remember, a lot of our staff here are coming from other full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Because this job doesn't pay a wage that the people.
Well, I understand that, but you're talking about people working full-time, aren't you? You're talking about a full-time EMS crew.
Correct.
But I
A
think the point.
full-time EMS crew should be,
The point I think you're missing is that if I was working a 12-hour shift in an industrial job, I would be doing something constantly.
right,
In this situation, that's not necessarily true. You're
Oh, I-
peaked, it's like that, so
no, I
you're up and down.
understand that, I just don't understand. Well, I do, but I don't. If they're working another job, I'm sorry, but
Yeah, that was a poor choice of words. If they're working a 24-hour shift, if say Wednesday there's no one on it, period, morning, noon, night, someone's got to work a 24-hour shift. There's only so much stocking, cleaning, and getting ready that you can do. There's going to be downtime in a 24-hour
Well,
shift.
that-
Hold on. And 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. they got nothing going on.
Right.
If they want to take a nap, it's,
Right.
with the facility downstairs, it's not a castle. It's more like a locker room. It's not tying up a lot of money. And I'm sure if anyone put out a notice, the materials would get donated. We're not talking a lot of upkeep on it. It's just a place for people to lay their head.
I understand, but
Okay.
I know it's not the 70s or 80s anymore,
Yeah.
but fire departments, EMS crews in the big city, you have a dorm.
Yeah, that's
Men
what it
and
is
women.
down there.
Pardon?
That's what it is down there. It's a dorm.
Well, yeah, but you got 4 bedrooms.
Right, the bedrooms are half the size, about the size of that table right there, with a wall between it, and it's a bed. And is there a nightstand next to the bed?
Downstairs, I understand,
Yeah.
it's a cramped up area in the basement.
Yeah, in a very old basement.
But it's just, to me, the idea of, it sounds like everybody wants an independent bedroom.
No,
And I don't blame them for wanting a room to sleep in.
they just want, if 4 people are on, and there's downtime, and they know it's gonna be a busy night, say full moon or something, they're gonna get a little rest, they're gonna take a little shut-eye.
Yeah.
And with everything going on in the world today, you want a door on the room.
I worked in a warehouse, 12-hour shift, and downtime, we went down and hid under the racks.
Yeah,
Okay,
stop. Everything was different back then. Things are different.
If you're 24, that's what I'm saying. If you're 24-hour shift, that's fine.
okay.
But to say there ain't nobody 24
Yeah.
and still have to have bedrooms.
No one's saying that. I think
Okay.
it's a 24-hour shift. let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. There was a change made. Are the employees happy about that change? Does that improve things?
No, it's, and I think I can answer this because of the interviews. One thing that has changed that needs to get changed, my opinion, say, because they're in the room, say Jen's working, Ben's working, Joe Alkin's working, and say they're on a 24-hour shift. All three of them have homes here. They all have homes in this community, in Hudson, minutes away from here. Why can't they just go lay in their own bed? You know, it's simple things like
Okay.
that, the comforts of being in your own home. You know, but, and it can't get put into, oh, they're taking their equipment home, oh, they're just home, just doing nothing. That kind of stuff is ridiculous. Because when they dial 911, they want someone there. And eventually, everyone in this room, the 5 people watching on TV, they're gonna need 911 someday. It's not an option to sell it off and to close it up or to go with a subpar system. Let's figure out the way it is now, let's fix it the way it is now, and stop bickering about tiny little things. Let's worry about the big issues. Okay? Ward Avenue, big issue.
Yes.
Let's get it fixed.
Okay.
Communication between management and staff, let's get it fixed. Those are the things that I want to see worked on for the staff.
Okay.
Because once the staff is happy, guess what happens? They
Yes.
start talking to other staff, and they
Yes.
start coming in.
Yes. Okay. Then let's.
Sorry to talk like that, but.
All right. Any other items? Okay, so for discussion only?
I think we need to get an answer to the heart monitor question.
And,
What is a heart monitor? You guys talking, tell me what it is.
The cardiac monitor that we use on almost every call, it has
Yeah.
EKG capability, blood pressure, oxygen saturation, heart rate, it's everything that you see in the ER hanging next to the patient's bed, we have in the ambulance.
So that thing sticks on your finger and they put a pad on your chest?
All the
and it
stickers
reads
on your
it?
chest and, yep. So
Okay,
it's
so it's reading all your vitals?
all your vitals and EKG.
Okay, and they're how much money? 80,000.
That's
That's for 3 of them.
that's a Josh question.
80,000 for 3 of them.
About $30,000 a piece.
And you're upset about that?
Am I?
Yeah.
I'm not really upset, I'm just wondering. We're talking here.
Life-saving
The way I
equipment.
understood it, we're supposed to be here discussing on how to make EMS fly.
Right.
And the $30,000 there, when I can go on the internet and buy one for $1,000.
Those are two completely different.
Two different
machines.
things.
You're talking the $1,000 ones, those are defib only. 2 stickers you slap on your, there's probably even one right out here in the hallway.
It's an AED.
It's an AED. 2 stickers, you push a button and you go.
how often do they need
These
to
read the
be?
oxygen level in your blood, correct?
Yep.
They read your probably
Pulse.
respiratory, yeah?
Great.
Your heart rhythm?
Yep.
What else does it do?
End tidal, capnography,
12-lead
12-lead EKG.
And the biggest thing, it's probably like, because I'm in the restaurant business, I know the difference between a home stove and a commercial stove, and it's about 15 grand.
Yep. And ours have
'Cause it's durable.
Wi-Fi and Bluetooth capabilities, so we can send what we see right to the physician in the ER.
So they can
So-
email it right to them.
Yep, instantaneously they see it. As soon as we send it to the ER, Brandon gets a text message. He sees it on his phone what we're doing. The ER physician can see it at Hudson. They can see it at Regions, wherever we
And
send
why do you guys get new ones?
it. Technology
Technology's different, like it'll have Bluetooth on it.
and just things wear
Jim,
out.
bring it right up here.
How often do they need to be replaced?
That's a Josh question.
I
The
think
reason
there's
that we-
7-year.
Most medical equipment is, anything you buy, they label as a shelf life of 7 years.
And it's battery operated.
Correct. The biggest problem that we went and bought the 2 new ones this year, last year.
Yeah.
Last year. Because the Philips MRX monitors that we had previously got end-of-life. So Philips is no longer supporting them.
Okay.
We had a monitor to go down, well, toss her in the garbage.
So a Zoll X series, if I'm listening to you correctly, is $1,000.
No,
Okay, what's the Zoll X series on Amazon?
The new ones,
This looks new.
these are refurbished. You find on the internet. They're refurbished, but
Yeah,
if you go onto these forums, they might not last as long as the new one,
right.
but.
I don't want it to break down.
$29,000.
Yeah, I don't want it breaking down on anyone in this room.
So I purchased these as well. I pay about the same dollar amount. So when you buy a monitor, it's almost like you're buying a car that has options.
I understand.
You can buy that X series that only does one thing, and it would be significantly less. I would be challenged to find one for under 10 to 12,000 at its bare bones minimum. That would probably not include batteries, probably not include anything else you need.
And it's got a printer.
But to have all of the add-ons significantly increase the price of the monitor. So as one who's been purchasing this exact monitor for probably 8-9 years, the price is appropriate, the features that are on it are appropriate. There's nothing in there that is necessarily above and beyond what the necessary needs for the department are. It is kind of the standard. It's the same ones they carry in the helicopters. It's the same one they carry in critical care trucks, which is what our trucks are staffed at. So it really is the monitor. The MRXs that Josh alluded to, we carried them for as long as we could. So not only did we wait till they were end of life, we actually had an operation where depending on which truck you had a different monitor. And so you can understand the challenges. And a different monitor isn't just simply a different color. It's like giving somebody a MacBook and a PC, and even that's probably too similar of a comparison. So upgrading them was certainly something that was necessary, was important, and it really is for the betterment of the patient and the community.
And the importance of these is this. You're saving moments where a doctor doesn't have to evaluate the patient. He can look at a piece of paper or whatever this thing sends it to, and they got that information, they could process it much faster. Am I correct?
We can send, like, if someone's having a heart attack, we can send it to Regents Hospital, they can give it to the cath lab.
From the
12 minutes
vehicle.
Before we get there.
And they can have everything set up.
All right.
For 30 grand a truck. It's worth it to me.
Well, just, it ensures that we're getting the patient to the closest appropriate facility as fast as we can. And being able to Bluetooth it.
Because that does complete diagnostics. It even tells you, it doesn't literally tell you, but it tells you what hospital you need to go to. It says, go to your local hospital, or it says you need to go to the cities, to a designated heart center, a designated stroke center, a designated trauma center based on vitals, based on EKGs. It tells us essentially, I mean, you have to interpret it, but it tells you where you're bringing that patient.
We might see something funky every once in a while, and I can send it to the doc at Hudson here and be like, can you take a look at this? What do you see as well? And if they're like, send them here, we'll take care of them. Or I'll be like, no, this is funky too, let's go to Regents. Not everything's straight textbook, it's either this or this. But if I have questions, I can shoot it to them. And within seconds, they'll have it and I'm on the phone with them.
And you're getting that patient to better facility, not ripping on Hudson by any means. I'm saying if it's something they can't handle, you take it to the right place. So it saves time right there too. What's the price tag on a person's life? Is that what we're really asking here?
Sounds like it.
And if you've never seen a cath lab activation, for as big and as busy of a hospital as Regents Hospital is, when we send them the EKG that shows the patient is for sure having a heart attack, and for as much staff as they have and for as many patients as they're dealing with, and you have the cardiologist meet you at the back door or the ambulance because of what he saw on what you sent him, that's kind of a big deal. Because they saw it, while you're still driving through Woodbury, they know what's coming their way, and they're waiting for you outside the hospital.
When's the next meeting?
Okay. All right. Next meeting time and date is January 24th, 6:30.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.